morning, everybody. Today is Friday. It's March 2nd, and we're just marching right along. The rain came back. It rained hard last night. At least I think it rained hard last night. I slept so hard by the time I uploaded the strawberry pot video. My computer is getting way too old to start doing videos, so I have to look at a new computer eventually and maybe get one a little faster than my 7-year-old laptop. The sun's trying to peek out today. I'm in my sewing room, but the sun is trying to peek out today in between the dark clouds. So what's going to happen for today is stratification. Some seeds require cold to germinate. A lot of them are perennials. The flower turns into seeds. They drop down to the ground and they get spread all around. So when they're dropped onto the soil, the rain beats them down into the ground, and then it gets cold, and then it gets warm, and then it gets cold, and it gets wet, and then eventually they come back up in the spring when the soil warms to the right temperature. But in the meantime, all that cold and warm and freezing, it breaks down and it makes the seed wake up eventually. So some seeds do need to have that, and a lot of the perennials that we have around here needs a little bit of cold time to germinate. I have some bellflowers. Now, I have grown these 3 years ago. I ordered some on Amazon because we could not find this type of bellflower anywhere in any of the stores. Nobody carried it. So my sister really loved the bellflower on a walk that we used to walk the dog, and a lady had some, and I always was going to remember to grab seeds, but they turned into seed real fast and we always missed it. So I bought some, and people say they have such a hard time getting them to sprout. Like, the germination rate is horrible. Well, people don't realize if you don't research the seed, you might not know what you're getting. So I took a chance. It was $4. I ordered some white ones and some blue ones, but they needed to be stratified. So they had to be cold, and a lot of people don't realize that. So they got some really bad reviews on those seeds, and there was nothing wrong with the seeds. I take and I get a little container, and I fill it with the potting soil, mist it down real good, scatter the seeds, put a really light coat of potting soil back on top, spray them down again. You don't want really wet soil, but you want damp soil. You want to pretend like it's outside in the wintertime when it's damp and cold, and they need to be in the freezer. So they need to be frozen pretty good for at least 10 to 2 weeks, and then I bring them out and let them naturally unthaw like you would get a spring. And then they sprouted, and then I prick them out and put them in their bigger pots when they get big enough to move out into their bigger pots. Now, with bellflower, they are a biannual. That means the first year there's just the foliage, just the nice pretty little green mound of foliage. The second year they come up, the foliage, and then they get their sprouts, and that's when you get your flowers. And then those flowers drop the seeds. That next year you get the green, and then it comes up. So if you have a clump here, that's the first year, and then the second year you plant another clump, you're going to have flowers all the time, because they're always going to constantly, one will go down and the next one will come up and the next one will go down, and they live like that. So I'm going to start some more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put these in the dirt, put them in your freezer, and then we will plant them out in May or June. Give them a good few months to get going, and then I'll put them where they're going to live. You just have to remember to mark them, because they do look like grass when they're first coming up and weeds, so you need to remember to mark them where you put them, because you don't want to pull them, because they're not going to flower the first year. So that's what I'm going to do there. Now what I'm going to use, this is an old strawberry container that you get from the store, and I'm going to use this to put in my freezer. It's about the right size, and I'm going to use 10 days, 7 to 10 days in the freezer. So I've always stratified by actually putting them in soil, damp soil, closing them up, sealing them up in a Ziploc bag, and putting them in the freezer and checking on them about every 3 days to make sure the soil is still damp. Then I just take them out and go put them on a heating mat, and when they sprout, then I prick them out and put them in their own little pots. That's just the way I've always done it. To me, it just seems more like nature to be in soil, being frozen. So I just laid my coffee filter down, because of course these have air holes so your strawberries don't rot. And I'm going to fill this up with potting soil. So I'm going to tamp down. It'd be nicer if I was out in my potting shed, but it's still a little cold and my water has not been turned on out there, so without water it's kind of hard to water anything. And I'm going to really wet this soil down before I put the seeds on it. We don't want it completely soaked, but this potting mix is pretty dry. There we go. These, yes, Mr. Frodo, I know the laundry's going again. He is just really vocal for some reason. Now there's not very many seeds in this pack, and I bought two packages. And I have to remember to see, I know I have some of these out in my potting shed from the ones that I saved, and I believe they're the white ones. But like I said, the blue ones for some reason do better in my yard than the white ones. So it's just kind of a light sprinkling, try to get them kind of all over the place. A little bit of seed starting mix over the top of these, not much. Just a little bit. And then kind of press them down so that we know all the seeds are in contact with that moist soil. Spray a little more on top of this. Close the lid. And I am going to write BF on here. 3, 2. Now, these have to go in the freezer. I have a spot for them in my freezer, and we will check on them in 3 days, make sure I can still see moisture in here, and then I'll check on them 3 days later, make sure there's still moisture, and then on around the 10th day, so probably around the 12th, 13th, or 14th, I'll pull them out and then go put them on the heat mat and get them started germinating. And that's all there is to starting bellflowers.